Our last transition track speaker of the day is Jon Helmus. Jon Musi is a Navy veteran who is now a security engineer and educator. He has been working in engineering, security, and IT for 10 years. His specializations are in pen testing, threat and adversarial assessments, vulnerability management, and cloud technologies such as AWS. He's also a big fan of academia and loves using his experience as a technical educator and university professor to help direct students and veterans into cybersecurity. Presenting the veteran roadmap to becoming a penetration tester is Jon Helmus.
So today, I told you we're going to do a change up, right? So today we're going to do the veteran roadmap on transitioning back into the military. How's that sound? Is that what you guys came here for today, right? We don't want to go back into the military? Come on, guys. I'm saying I'm waiting for the numbers to start going down, seeing who's waiting. So just kidding, right? So today we're actually going to go over a talk that I have formed over the past year, and then for VetSecCon, I have formulated it into something that directly helps our brothers and sisters in arms on the air and in the air and on sea and everything and there in between, and geared it towards veterans, right? So how do we help veterans get from being in the military to being a pen tester? So when we're going through this talk today, know that you can actually apply a lot of the things that you learn or that we take from this talk and actually apply it to just about anything, right? It's just we're going to gear it more towards pen testing because that is the field that I work in. And it's also the hot topic right now. So, all right, so let's go ahead and get going. So roll call, right? So this is what we're going to be doing today. Here's a list of all the stuff that we're going to be going through. We have a lot of slides to go through today, so I'm not really going to worry about all that stuff because guess what? This is one, recorded, and two, we're going to talk about it anyways. Take a mental screenshot of that if you want, and let's keep going. So who am I? Well, my name is Jon Helmus, or as I am now known in the community sometimes as Moosey. I am a naval veteran. As you can see there, there's a picture of me on, I believe that was RIMPAC in 2012. I actually come from a non-technical background. The most experience I had in tech before the Navy was I worked at Best Buy, and I have an associate's degree in audio engineering before getting into tech. So here's a list of some of the stuff that I've done since I've gotten out of the military. As you can see, I've gone from being a help desk guy to an ISSC to a pen tester, red teamer, professor. I've even done content writing for CompTIA as well. I also have a blog on Medium that I do, done some bug bounty hunting, things like that. As I'm my own independent security researcher that I focused on AWS stuff. And I'm also a new published author. I have a book coming out in December called AWS Penetration Testing. So you can actually go pre-order that right now on Amazon, which we'll talk about later towards the end of the talk. But when you're looking at all this stuff, you can see that it's a very broad scope of things, right? CompTIA, boo. Hey, man. We'll get to that, Calvin. We'll get to that. I'm going to remember that. I'm actually going to write that down. Calvin booed me. Hackers don't forget. So anyway, so currently what I'm doing out of all this stuff, if some of you watched Kim's talk in the technical track today, you know that I'm an adjunct professor at the City University of Seattle. I teach bachelor level cybersecurity courses. I'm also an adjunct professor at the National University. I believe we have some students of mine in here today, or at least some of the students that I've helped mentored. Maybe one day I'll be their mentee. So I teach master level classes there, as well as do course development at National University, where I focus in ethical hacking, pen testing, red teaming, and advanced exploitation. I teach a slew of courses based around that offensive security realm, as well as my day job is I am currently the interim offensive security manager at Nordstrom headquarters based up here in Seattle, Washington. I've worked there for a couple of years, worked through the ranks as a pen tester, and now we recently lost our manager he went to go work at Facebook. So I've stepped up to the plate, taken that position, and we'll be doing that for the foreseeable future. So what is pen testing, right? We got a lot of, you can probably ask a bunch of pen testers and they're going to give you a bunch of different ideas, right? So in my own words, really what it is an authorized simulated attack on a computer system to evaluate the security posture of that system, right? We want to make sure that we're evaluating the vulnerabilities and the issues that we discover on the systems to actually show the impact that those vulnerabilities have. However, it's more than just the technical stuff, guys. It's way more than just the technical stuff. So what it really is, and we're going to talk about this a lot throughout the day. So I hope one thing that you learned from today is that pen testing is not just this like technical on the keyboard thing. It's a lot of talking, a lot of research. You have to have a very strong soft skill set as well as a technical skill set. And I'm sure, you know, any of the other guys who do offensive security here in the ranks in the chat will totally agree. So what it really is it means that you're going to imagine that you find some vulnerabilities and you have to discover what you're doing or what those vulnerabilities are. Matt was discussing zero net logon, right? And he was just messing around with it, didn't know what it was doing. If you were a pen tester to find a vulnerability such as zero net logon and you just launch the attack without any knowledge of what that exploit does, the impact that it's going to have on the system, is that system a production system? Is it a live system? Things like that. You're going to be in a heap of trouble, right? So you have to understand, you have to do copious amounts of research before you even launch that exploit on that discovered vulnerability. So you're not even going to sit there and you're not going to even sit there and be hands on the keyboard per se, right? You're going to be scrummaging the internet, trying to find information, really evaluating it, looking at the target, right? Seeing if it's a production system. Is it a test system? Who's on that system? Who can access that system? Is it out to the public? Is it needed for the public? Is it a system that really is a driver for revenue for the organization that you're targeting, right? So there's a lot of variables there that you have to inspect before you even launch that zero net logon thing where you're doing the cool hacking, right? So think about it. I just mentioned the zero net logon, and that was a blip of the big paragraph that I just said. But that's the technical part. So really what it is it's where you're doing a bunch of research. You would meet up with teams and be like, hey, we discovered these vulnerabilities. We should probably discuss the impact and actually exploit the vulnerabilities to see what the impact is and the severity that it has on the organization. So it's about people, it's about processes. And I can't like harp on this enough. It's a big, big thing where you need to make sure that you're checking, you know, the culture, the way how operations are, and the way how the technical things are within an organization, right? So it says here, it's about people and processes, and technical skills play a major role, but soft skills play a vital role. What I mean by that is, if you notice, and Matt, I'm gonna talk about you a little bit because your talk was amazing, is Matt was talking a lot about the technical stuff and mentioning, you know, how how you develop those skills, right? When he was talking about try hack me, hack the box, all that stuff. Those are things that you have to learn and you have to keep up with, and they are a major role because that's what makes a pen tester a pen tester. But if you can't talk the talk while you're also walking the walk, then you're not really coming full peak as a pen tester. So it's essential that you're able to, you know, translate these technical issues that you find and translate them at a soft level where managers, executives, non-tech related people can understand. And you also have to say it in a asinine kind of way where it makes it seem like you have this superior godlike complex because you're able to hack a computer, but you can't talk to someone, right? And as someone who has done lots of interviews for pen testers, one of the big things I always look for is the humility and the curiosity that an individual has. I could care less about their technical skills. I'll throw a try hack me subscription at you and make you do 40 hours worth of labs to learn the stuff that you got to do. But if you're not just a decent individual with good intention and you don't follow through with that good intention, then you're not going to be, you know, a good pen tester. So concurrently have to walk the walk and talk the talk. And just so you know, I don't really look at the chat because I do get sidetracked and then I will go through it and look at that and I will not be able to focus on what we're talking about. Big reason that we do pen testing, right? It's not just about hacking the planet and looking at all the cool stuff and helping organizations. That is the big part, but the big reason is compliance. It is now a regulated assessment where you have to be able to do by, usually 2 pen tests a year on like a PCI environment or a HIPAA environment, various environments, right? You got the whole slew here that require you to do a pen test. Now, compliance is not translated into security. For those of you that are students or been working in the industry, that's one of like the number one things that we learn right off the bat is that compliance does not mean secure. However, it is a baseline to say that you are at a secured level to operate and generate revenue for your organization. So if you're not at that compliant level, guess what? You can't operate and you can't make money. So you have to do pen tests. So essentially, and we'll talk about it a little bit later, it's one of like the kind of like hacking the way into the field is where if you just get some certs to like make you a compliant based pen tester and you understand pen test methodologies, you'll get a job somewhere. Might not be the sexiest, coolest job, but you'll get in the field. And then of course, always got to do that compliance training. For those of us that were in the military, we totally understand the cybersecurity training, right? So again, it's all about making sure that we're compliant. Nothing special, things like that, right? So now we're going to talk about becoming a pen tester. Here's a slew of things that we're going to talk about. Not really going to worry about the bullet points here, but that's what we're going to talk about. So the student mindset, right? We need to be a curious learner. That's probably tied for first. You got to be curious. You got to be able to just think outside the box and want to think outside the box, staying out of your comfort zone. Couldn't tell you last time I was in my comfort zone. Currently I work, I teach online at 2 schools. I'm going to school. I'm actually getting a PhD in cyber operations, and I work full time, and I have a farm, and I have a family. So I'm a very busy guy, and I'm constantly out of my comfort zone. But being out of your comfort zone helps drive yourself in multiple different assets of your life. Whether it's, your career, your personal goals, and anything in there between. Being humble in this field, there's humility and being humble is a big thing to keep up with, because if you're not, you're going to be that asshole hacker. Setting continuous realistic goals is a big thing. Has Matt said, he said he's staying off the cert track for a little bit because he did his OSCP and he wants to make sure that he doesn't bog down. So his next goal is to do his hike on the Appalachian Trail. That is still a goal, right? It doesn't matter if you're setting a goal in your career or outside of your career. Just make sure that you set goals, because it's going to develop that mindset in your head to say, okay, once I get done doing this, I'm going to find something else to do, right? And it engages that continuous learning experience. Always make sure you find people that are above you and seek mentorship. That is crucial, because they're going to help broaden your network. They're going to help guide you in a realistic sense where you need to go. And it's just going to be, better for you all around. Big thing, don't seek validation in this field. Don't try to be the cool, biggest hacker or the best at whatever. Seek to educate everyone, including yourself. This field is about making things better than when you found them, right? So you just want to make sure that, when you get done with a pen test or you get done mentoring someone, you want to feel good knowing that they're better off than after you've interacted with them than they were before. And then the other big thing, this is number one, and that's the last bullet point on here, is that leave fear in the rearview mirror. You got to do that. And, I will, probably say some foul language, but you can't give a shit what people think about you, because life is too short to give a shit what people think about you. And it's long enough to where you can do all of these things and really make an impact on your life and the people around you. Be humble, not a megalomaniac, right? Here's a Twitter post that I put out a while ago. I said, I don't know if he needs to hear this, but being in offensive security doesn't make you better than anyone. Last I checked, megalomania is not a must-have on job applications. You'll see a lot where people think that just because they can hack the planet, that, they're better than everyone. That could not be farther from the truth. And I've kind of made it one of my personal goals to really highlight that being a pen tester and an ethical hacker does not mean you're like this big bad hacker. You're essentially just a security engineer with a different skill set, right? You don't see the policy security engineers being like, oh, I'm this big bad policy writer, I'm gonna, write a policy that does this. No, they don't, because they don't care. It's in this field where it's like, oh, I all of a sudden learned how to hack a S&B share, and now all of a sudden, like, I'm better than everyone. And you see that, right? And I'm not blanket statement saying everybody acts like that, but you do see that pretty bad. Especially, Matt had mentioned that he's not on Twitter. And if you go, I mean, I love the Twitter community, but there is a lot of, I think somebody said today in one of the other tracks that Twitter is a cancer. And, there's a good InfoSec community there, but there's also a lot of negativity there. So stay on LinkedIn if you don't want to get around that. So being curious, right? What does that really, really mean? All right. So you always have to look at things from a different perspective. We, as veterans, already do that. And why do we do that? Because we went from some type of lifestyle to being forced to live another lifestyle, right? And I say forced, I mean, we signed up for it, but we were forced into some situations and we had to think outside the box, right? In the military too, it's competitive. You have to be hungry to learn new things if you want to excel in the military. It's the same thing in pen testing. If you want to excel, you have to be able to learn something new every day. I was talking to one of my engineers yesterday about that, about how, the difference between pen testing and the other security engineering fields is that, what you learned at a conference last year as a security engineer will still benefit you this year. In pen testing, it's what you learned last year is not going to benefit you this year. I mean, I would even argue that what you learned last week is not going to benefit you. So keep that in mind. You have to be willing to dive into anything. You have to be willing to tinker, and you have to try to understand different technology, because technology keeps growing, right? And we go from different tech stacks, right? Like the big thing now is the cloud. And you have to be able to understand that. And it falls in line with your staying out of your comfort zone. You got to kind of learn different things. So being a pen tester is about being a jack of all trades, or not being about a jack of all trades, or sorry, let me restate that. Being a jack of all trades, master of none. So utilize your veteran network, right? And the next slide is going to have some other like cool little clip art about some organizations that you can work with. So here's a list of things that you can use, right? We can list the schools. Well, sorry, I said that wrong. You can go, like if you're in school, a lot of us use our GI Bill. use your school network. I kid you not. I have a bachelor's degree in information technology from the University of Phoenix, the online Harvard of the West. But I went to it in San Diego. This was like 6 years ago. I finished up my degree there. And I was I utilized my network there. And one of my professors or instructors, whatever you want to call them there, they actually saw potential in me because of how much I strived in classes. And they actually got me a job teaching while I was finishing up my master's degree at a college in San Diego, because they were the dean, right? And they realized I really liked ethical hacking and all this stuff. And I would do it in my off hours while I was going to school. I got a job teaching associate level, like intro to pen testing or ethical hacking things, where I was teaching students like Nmap and Burp Suite and things like that right out of my bachelor's degree, just because I used my network. And you can do that too, right? You can do that too, even if it's online. You just have to, you have to be able to speak up and find mentorship and really excel. LinkedIn, if you want to, I'll put my handles at the end of this talk. You'll see them. You can hit me up on LinkedIn and I will try to help you out the best I can. But there's a lot of good people on LinkedIn that will help you out and try to help you find a job, especially in the veteran community. Twitter is another good place. You see people posting out for jobs and stuff like that. The InfoSec community has a lot of things on there. Facebook, right? Especially for us in the military, you got out 10 years ago, and then, Sailor Timmy is now a director of an InfoSec program, and you might hit them up and be like, hey, I actually am trying to get an InfoSec. Do you have any openings at your company? Right? That might happen. It does happen. I've had it happen to me where I've helped, military that I worked with, or that I was with in the military, hit me up on Facebook and be like, hey man, I saw you're doing all these things in cyber. Can you give me some guidance and maybe help me find a job? Absolutely. Mentoring and menteeing, right, kind of goes hand in hand. You want to find people above you, and you want to find people that you can help, that are, I don't want to say below you, but people that are coming up, right, that were in your shoes at one point. You also, it's not on here, but you want to find people that are the same level as you, so that you can compete with each other, not toxic wise, right? You want to make it good. But those are going to be two things that are going to help you out. So conventions, right? Not just the security conventions, just go to conventions. One of my big things is I like to go to like self-help seminars, because they really help you understand a lot about yourself that you didn't think you knew. They also help you understand a lot about what you can do that you didn't know you could do. So, and the fortunate thing about the bad case of COVID this year is that we can actually go to all these things online. So it's pretty easy. Internships were kind of like left in the basket and thrown over the bridge, so to speak, this year, because COVID messed everything up, right? However, I am starting to see internships already start to pop up for 2021. So those are things that you can start to look for. Those are going to help get you in the door. You don't even need seasonal internships. Sometimes you can go find small companies, especially small security firms like pen testing firms, that will, they'll say, hey, we need a junior pen tester that will pay you $15 an hour, but we're literally teach you all the tools of the trade, right? We're going to throw you into it and you're going to do it. You're going to get paid, minimum labor wage, but you're going to get a good reference. You're going to get that on the job skill set, and you're really going to learn, and you're going to be able to grow from there. Fun fact, I did something similar to that. But yeah, that's a long story. And then on the job training, obviously, if you can do it, do it for, if you have to do it for free, do it for free, but make sure you get a reference out of it, because that reference is something to add to your digital Rolodex and build your network. And then these are some sources that I wanted to mention that you can use as a veteran that are free to you, that are really going to help you out. So of course, there's the VetSec community. There's the VetSec Slack channel, really going to help push you to find where you need to go. Syracuse University has a really, really good veteran-friendly program where I believe it's free, I think, or cheap with your GI Bill, something around there. I mean, little to no money. Amazon does the Apprenti program and does have a special program for veterans where if you're a veteran, you want to try to get in, you can. And then my favorite is actually the FortiVet program. It's the one down here on the bottom. The director of that, Jay Garcia, he's actually speaking, I believe, tomorrow, is an awesome guy. You can find him on LinkedIn. Literally ping him on LinkedIn, say, hey brother, I was, John recommended me to you and said that you would be able to help, get me into, steer me in the right direction. Because the FortiVet program, essentially what they do is they take veterans, you don't have to have a technical background, and they take you and make you like this baseball looking card thing. And that says like your stats and like what you want to do and what you're doing right now and your educational stuff. And they basically just solicitize you out to all their vendors. And they have like 900 vendors, and they're big vendors like Cisco, Palo Alto, things like that. And they'll get you a job, and they'll help basically walk your hand by, helping you get a competitive salary, helping you with interview questions. Obviously not going to do the interviews for you, but they're really going to help you. And they helped me out a few years ago, and I wound up getting some pretty good offers from some security consulting companies because of that. And I think at the time I had maybe a year of security engineering experience. So check them out. Really awesome program, really going to help push your career forward. So gaining technical skills. Well, Matt kind of touched on this. It's the Try Hack Me, Hack the Box, VulnHub, right? Those are the hacking websites that you can go look at. VulnHub now too has a relationship with offensive security. So for those of you looking at taking the OCP eventually, a lot of those boxes are going to be working directly with that. And then books. I can't recommend any books, but pick up a book that you think might be interesting. I currently on my desk here, I have Statistics for People Who Hate Statistics cybersecurity attacks, red teaming strategies, and hacking exposed wireless. So you can see that there is there's a array of different knowledge there. Just pick up a book. Learn to love to read if you don't love to read. HackerOne, BugCrowd, those are going to be those platforms that you want to use to do real web pen testing. So those are going to be those bug bounty platforms that I mentioned at the beginning of this talk, where you use those to actually go hack real websites. And if you find a bug, you support it in an you submit it in a actual kind of report template to the target organization, and they either accept it or they don't. The great thing about that is that even if it doesn't get accepted, you're actually hacking real websites and submitting an actual, pen test finding. So you're actually going to get some like real world knowledge, feedback, things like that. So I highly recommend, even if you're not comfortable with web app pen testing, do those just to get comfortable with some real style kind of pen testing. Programming, I would think, the common thing is to start off with Python if you're not comfortable. If you know Python, dabble into some other languages. We'll talk about that towards the end of the talk, so we ain't gonna really worry about it. Cobalt.io and Synac are two programs that you can use. They're basically, think of it as pen testing as a service, where you go and sign up to be on these programs. You have to go through a couple interviews and a technical assessment, and then they make you a profile, and then they assign you pen tests when they have some that they feel you could fit the bill for. So check those out if you really want to get some more like web app system pen testing kind of skills, and you get paid for it. Speed bumps, the things we hate, right? The things that really just screw us up. So lacking experience. If we were actually in a room, I'd be like, show of hands, who has been told they lack experience? Because you know what? Even I have. It's something that we all face at every level, right? So when you get told you're lacking experience, what do you need to do? Well, you need to really, really reevaluate yourself. And this where, learning to be humble will actually help you excel. So when you're lacking experience, it's typically in one of these portions, right, where you're lacking security experience, programming experience, or some kind of technical experience, right? Because typically you'll apply for a job that you might fit the years of experience bill. And even if you don't, honestly, that's not the number one contributing factor that I see for denials. Get good. Yeah. Use your get. So when you're doing that, make sure that you really humble yourself and say, you know what? I really want this offensive security position at Amazon, but they said I'm just not a right fit. Let me reevaluate myself, look at the skill sets that they wanted, look at my skill sets, and really bridge the gaps, do some gap analysis on it, and see how I can make myself better. Kick the tires, light the fires, and just go and better yourself for a year, reapply, get the job, right? Essentially, that's what it is. It's that easy. It just takes time and a little bit of patience and a lot of effort. Lacking certifications. I hate this one because I have an alphabet soup full of certifications, including OSCP, and we're going to talk about it again. But just because you have a certification doesn't mean you know anything. To be honest, it just means that you're able to pass a certification. And that body of knowledge. But that body of knowledge, especially in pen testing, remember, it's about people and processes. You don't learn about that in a certification. You don't learn about that. You only learn about the technical skill set. And as Matt said, ECPPT and OSCP, those are two totally different ones, right? And we'll talk about that here in a second. But just know that, right? That they can be silly. But if you don't have any, start with the beginner ones. Don't go to the OSCP first. Don't worry about it. Sorry, I looked at the chat and I got sidetracked. Lack of job openings, follow the job openings, follow the jobs, follow the positions that you want to do. If you live in BFE, Maine, there might not be a job there, and you might have to move to New York, San Francisco, Seattle, things like that. Or you might be able to get a remote job, those are big now because of COVID. But you have to follow the jobs, right? I grew up in North Carolina. There's not really a lot of stuff in my area. So I live in Seattle, and I've kind of transplanted a little bit back and forth between Seattle and San Diego over the course of the past 10 years. So you just really got to follow the jobs, right? And learn to like different places. Lack of motivation, burnout, right? Don't burn yourself out. Life is long. Cyber's not going anywhere, right? So, make sure your priorities are right and that your career is not the first priority, because your career is not going anywhere. It's a long road, right? So don't worry about it. When you feel like you're about to burn out, stop. Take a break. Chloe talked about that today. Just take a break and smell the roses. Do something that you enjoy, right? Do something that you enjoy. That's all you got to do. Trust me, I have the cert is always going to go to the argument when the other person doesn't get convinced of you not with your knowledge. If somebody said that to me in an interview, I'd be like, get out. So career paths, how can we get into pen testing, right? Because we can't just like launch ourselves into pen testing. So we need to look at some jobs that we can get before we do it. So we can start with some of these jobs. As you can see, it starts from like help desk, sysadmin, netadmin, some various security specialist jobs. You can even be your own independent researcher, as some of you are, and that's really going to help you, or even being a programmer, right? And in some of, I've done this talk at some other places. I actually have built like diagrams of roadmaps. I didn't really do it for this one just because of time, but you can, look up my name on YouTube and find those other talks and fast forward to like the last 10 minutes and you'll see the diagrams. But these are just some of the jobs that you can get. So take a minute. I don't really want to talk about them all, but notice how they vary in different degrees. These are going to be those jobs that you got to get in order to get into pen testing. Brad says no incident response, because I wouldn't want anybody to go into IR first, because IR is, that's stressful. People say pen testing is stressful. Pen testing is not stressful. IR is stressful because you're a slave to the incidents that are happening in real time, as opposed to a pen test. You say, oh, I found this exploit and this vulnerability and whatever, and I can take my time to do this, as opposed to IR is like, oh, there's an IOC. We got to take care of this right now, and we can't leave until it's done. So if you want to lose your hair or have, IR flashbacks, please join IR. Otherwise, maybe stick to something that's not so intense. All right, and then some pen testing careers, some of the names that you might see for pen testing. Obviously, the penetration tester, red teamer. Red teamer is a little different. You challenge relationships and business strategies, operations, a lot more than just, you would in a pen testing role. Offensive security engineer does a lot of everything that you see on the screen. An AppSec engineer is going to be more of looking at applications being built by the organization, or you would be a third party looking at a client's application. You even see ethical hacker sometimes. You can actually go on Indeed and Google ethical hacker, and you might find a couple jobs. Exploit developer, those are, that's where you're actually going to be looking and doing like some reverse engineering, such as we saw in for those of you that were in Matt's talk at the beginning of today, where he was actually reverse engineering WannaCry, right? You're not going to be reverse engineering WannaCry, but you're going to be working with those tools to actually develop exploits. You can be a consultant and a purple teamer. Purple teamer is where blue team and red team kind of meet, and you look at the operations of everything going on. How am I doing on time? Oh, dang, we got a lot. We only got 15. I might need an extra 5 minutes. Like 5 minutes. Don't we have just like the day end after this? So education, here's some degrees you can get, right? You can go to coding boot camps. I don't recommend them, but you can do them. A bachelor degree is typically required in most of these jobs. I mean, not saying that you can get you can't get a job without a degree, but it's going to make you more competitive. A master's degree is typically desired. Stay competitive, stay in school. So now let's get to the certifications. Okay, so CompTIA Sec Plus, first one you should get if you don't have any yet. You're going to spend about $350, you plus $200 on materials, so about $160 for 3 months of consistent studying. Consistent studying is about 2 hours a day, maybe take a day or two off a week. That's what you're going to get. Exam is 90 minutes, 90 questions, and you have to get a 750 to pass. Passing without industry experience, meaning you don't know anything about it, you're going to probably pass it if you stick to like a schedule of 1 to 3 months of 2 hours a day. The CEH, this is the certification that's going to make you compliance ready to pen test. So if you get this, guess what? You're compliance ready to pen test. So if you have this, a degree, and a little bit of hacking experience, even like on GitHub, like if you push stuff on GitHub, have a try hack me profile or something, I guarantee you, you'll get a job. Guarantee you. It's expensive though, $1,200 plus, $200 for some extra materials. The exam's only 4 hours. It's written 125 questions. You got to get a 60 to 85 to pass, depending on the exam that you get. Way too expensive, but yeah, it's expensive, but it's compliance based. So you might spend $2,000 to get this, but guess what? Then you're ready to be a pen tester and you might get a gig. So it's not very challenging, but as long as you stick to the studying. The EJPT, some of you might have this. This is a really popular cert. It's the best valued cert on the entire list of things that we're going over today. You're going to spend $500 on materials, 4 exam vouchers, and all the labs. It's going to be a hands-on penetration test that you're going to do for 3 days for the exam. It doesn't take 3 days typically. I've never heard of anybody saying they took them 3 days. But you're going to do basically like a real hands-on pen test. The passing without industry experience, it's not going to be very difficult. Doesn't mean that the exam's not difficult, but Council, sorry. Surprised my computer's not lighting on fire. eLearn Security is going to hold your hand basically and teach you all the steps that you need to pass the exam. All right, so the Pen Test Plus, CompTIA, who was it? It was Calvin. Calvin, have you taken the Pen Test Plus? Because this exam is hard. You're going to spend about $160 for 4 months with consistent studying, about 2 to 3 hours a day. Calvin took the beta. Did you pass the beta? He barely failed, but he failed. So CompTIA is not so easy. Anyway, so the exam, I'm just screwing with you, man. So it's 165 minutes. You get 85 questions at a maximum. When I took it, I think I got like 70. It's challenging without industry experience because a lot of the questions in here are, they're very scenario based, and you will only be able to pass them. You'll only be able to effectively answer them, or comprehensively, I guess is a good way, if you have industry experience. The eLearn Security ECPPT, Matt talked about this. This is a $1,600 cert where you get all your stuff and an exam voucher. I recommend 4 months of studying. You're going to do a 7-day real life looking pen test. It's going to actually allow you to do a real style pen test. You can use Metasploit. You're going to be pivoting from networks. It's about as real as a pen test can be in an exam environment. And it's a black box, so you don't know anything about the environment for the most part. Passing without experience, it's pretty challenging. I will be humbling enough to say I actually failed it. I took it and I failed it, and then I went straight to OSCP because I was like, okay, well, I'll try to do this again, maybe at a later date. But I failed it, and I do pen testing. So talk about a bang to my ego. You're going to spend about $400 a month for 4 months. The OSCP, the big shiny cert, right? This is going to be about, I don't know, I don't think I did the cost analysis on this one, but as you can see, you're going to do about 6 to 12 months. And I'm not even going to worry about the cost because the cost is irrelevant to this, in my opinion. You're going to do 6 to 12 months of consistent studying if you want to try to effectively pass it on your first attempt. The exam is 48 hours, 24-hour hand-on experience, and a 24-hour report writing experience. So the 24-hour experience is where you get 5 machines. They vary in difficulty, and you got to hack them and get access on them at various levels, including getting root users, administrator level users. It's difficult because of the time constraint. You only have 24 hours as opposed to the ECPPT where you have 7 days. So the time crunch makes it really, really stressful, really screws with your mental. Passing without industry experience, pretty challenging. Most people fail it on their first time. I did. And then, you hear about people that fail it on their second, third time. Typically, I think it's the second or third time where people pass it. So it's a pretty big one. So, hold on. Okay. Beatrice, if we can go over just a little bit, that would be awesome. I'm trying to speed it up. So this is usually what happens in the OSCP. This is talking about the PWK course. It is it can be daunting, and it weeds out a lot of people just in that process. This is a conditioning process. The OSCP is not a cert in a sense of where it says, I know this body of knowledge. It is more of saying, I made it through this, right? I like to think of it, and this sounds really nerdy sometimes to say it and think about it, but it's almost like special op cyber training in a sense, in a certification form, where it's not more about getting the cert, it's about conditioning you to think in a different mindset. So just know that. So roadmap, certification cost analysis. As you can see, the first year you want to maybe focus on, and we're doing like a 2-year plan, guys. You're not just going to jump into being a pen tester. You're going to go get one of those starter jobs, and then you're going to get these certs, and then you're going to get the second year certs and start applying for pen testing gigs. So the first year you're going to spend about $2,400 on certs. That's not bad. You know, for those of us in the field, we understand that we have to pay to play and to learn, and to keep up with our skill sets. So $2,400 for your first year to get you to knock out some good certifications that are going to help you. Once you get that CEH, guess what? You actually might get a job in pen testing. I got a job as a DoD red teamer, and all I had was Security Plus and CEH, and that helped out, and that got my foot into pen testing essentially. Second year, you want to start looking at Pen Test Plus, ECPPT, OSCP, and notice how it's a bigger budget, but as it says, it's more than just an expense. It's about the journey of actually getting there. So certifications and your GI Bill, something more focused towards us, the veterans. Use your GI Bill for academia, not certifications. Academia is way more expensive, so please use it for that. Academics cost more and are more time consuming in the long run, so you use that GI Bill to get a degree while you also get a certification. Certifications are cheap, take less time, right? You go get a master's degree, it can take you 15 months to 2 years. OSCP, 6 months to a year at the most, right? So keep that in mind. Use your GI Bill for school and then pay for degree or for certifications out of pocket. And yes, it does cover SANS. I know that it does cover SANS, so you can do the SANS program. So I am going to mention a couple offensive security veteran-friendly universities. I am kind of biased towards them, but they are really good, and I've done a lot of research in this to find the perfect school. Dakota State University is a fabulous one. They have a cyber operations program at the bachelor's, master's, and the PhD level. So definitely check them out if you're trying to get into school. They're all online. They do all their programs online. They're really, the PhD of cyber operations program is really advanced. I know people that have done the master's program and say it's a lot of fun. The bachelor's program is fun as well. I've talked to maybe 2 people that are doing it, but really great school, really veteran friendly, going to help get you in there. Just know that the master's, I believe it is a little competitive, and the PhD of cyber operations program, if that's something you're interested in and you already have a master's degree, know that they only accept 10 to 12 people a year. So it's very competitive to get in. This is the school I work at. We actually have a master's degree with a focus in penetration testing. And I have actually developed about a third of the courses, and I developed them to help focus more on pushing students towards actually being able to pen test in the real world. So this is a really veteran-friendly school where if you're a vet and you have a bachelor's degree in some kind of STEM program, you're probably going to get in. And then you'll see me eventually online. So if you have any questions about that too, feel free to ping me. And then we have the Center of Academics Excellence Cyber Operations Program, also known as the NSA CAE in cyber operations. So we have this big list of programs. I'm going to actually put those in the chat. Beatrice, I got 8 more slides. 8 more slides. So degrees versus certifications, right? Degrees help build your network. Use those degrees to build your network. That's school network. They teach you the business processes. You're gonna understand people, influence, culture, because a lot of the instructors that you'll work with are actually going to be in the industry. They help keep you accountable. You got to write those assignments, get those assignments turned in, whether they're technical or paper. If you do the national program, I don't do papers. I do you actually submit pen test reports for labs every week. Some provide high-level technical skills. Technical PhDs are even now a thing. So you're not just doing like, you know, qualitative research, right? You're doing a lot of hacking. Certifications provide accredited proof of knowledge, right? So we have all these certs that we talked about. They're also a great way to bypass HR filters. Degrees versus certifications, just get both. Make yourself competitive, make yourself a unicorn, and just do both. Don't argue about if it's good or if it's bad. Just do both, right? And you're gonna excel. That's what from my own story, that's what I did. And I got from being a help desk guy to at least a security engineer in a year and a half, and then went into DoD red teaming after about a year of being a security engineer because of my degree and my certifications. Programming, Python, Bash, Ruby, great scripting languages. Ruby is also used to make Metasploit exploits. C and Java, a lot of exploits that you see will be written in C and Java, especially for those of you that have done the OSCP or have looked at it. You're going to know that, you know, you're going to see a lot of exploits written in those, and especially kernel exploits. And then Python, you'll see a lot of Python exploits. Other knowledge that you want to know, obviously, you want to know the fundamentals of, you know, operating systems, networking, just basic software stacks, how like the SDLC works, things like that. And the cloud. The cloud is a big thing now. You want to make sure that you understand cloud technology because it is here, everyone. Like I'm telling you, it's here and it's not going anywhere. Stay curious, give back, do all these things. If you be curious and sign up for all these forums, all these places where you can go, do all the hack the box, try hack me's, like just sign up for them, stay engaged, right? Don't burn out, make a realistic pace, but stay engaged. Make sure you find your niche too, right? I put cloud, devs, system security, network security, academia. Find your niche, even if it's a couple things, and just go with it, right? Dive in, be a tinkerer, be curious. Find a mentor, find people above you that can help push you, and you strive to want to be like them. My personal mentors are some people that I'm close with, as well as, believe it or not, I look up to some people like Elon Musk, you know, a guy who's like literally his life is to make travel better for the world. And he does a lot of different things all at once. And I'm a big Batman fan. I look up to Batman. He's a mentor. He doesn't know it, but he's a mentor. Find other student pen testers. Very obvious. Find the people that are also at the same level as you or on the same journey so that you can help each other. Find people that you can mentor because who knows, you might learn from them. And you're going to help push their careers forward and make them better. Help other veterans, such as what we're doing now. Sign up for those bug bounty platforms. And then, oh man, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. So the closing thoughts, right? You're gonna start your journey and you're gonna be super excited. And then you're gonna hit speed bumps and you're gonna fail. But guys, make sure that you fail forward. Fail forward, because if you fail backwards, that's when you're making backward progress. Fail forward, learn from your mistakes, right? So make sure you learn from those mistakes, because when you learn from those mistakes, you're gonna grow, and they're not gonna be mistakes anymore. They're just gonna be learning experiences. Because remember everyone, security is a journey and it's not a destination. And with that, we actually closed right on time. So this is where you can contact me. There's my Twitter handle on LinkedIn. Medium is a blog for those of you that you don't know. Here is my book. Book releases December 9th. Please go on Amazon and purchase it. Proceeds will be going to the Shelter to Soldier Foundation. They take at-risk animals in shelters. They turn them into service dogs that help out our brothers and sisters that suffer from PTSD and other illnesses due to the military life. And so they save an animal, and they also save a veteran. So please, even if you don't want to read the book, buy the book and know that your money is going to be going to something good. And then also you can catch me next week. Next Friday, I will be at VSides Portland. I'm doing a 2-hour AWS hacking workshop. It's free, open to the public. And then on the 29th, I'm going to be doing a presentation for Grey Hat. And I'm going to be presenting an AWS hacking talk. So with that, I appreciate everyone being here. Beatrice, I appreciate you let me go 1 or 2 minutes over. And now I'm here for your questions. My one question, I'm looking at Matt's. It says, John, what do you drink in the morning and where can I get a tall mug? So I drink a mixture of coffee and tea throughout the day. I drink about 2 cups of coffee and then I drink tea for the rest of the day. Otherwise my anxiety pings to the roof. And where can I get a tall mug? Amazon?
Yeah, you can also visit me in Germany.
There you go. We can visit Beatrice in Germany. Oh, let's see. I'm going to ping through the chat really quick. Dakota State has my attention. I love Dakota State, obviously. You know, I am biased, but they're a great place to go.
One person did ask, what is your opinion on graduate certificates?
They're good. I was getting a graduate certificate at one point, and then I realized I should just get my master's degree and get a cert while I'm going through my master's degree. And essentially that's what I did. I got a master's in pen testing, and while I was doing that degree, I got my CH and my EJPT. And hopefully, you know, with what we were talking about with Matt's talk, with the ECPPT and the OSCP, the ECPPT is going to teach you the fundamentals and the technical stuff, while the OSCP is going to condition you and change your mindset on how you think about security. Let's see. Frank says, I read somewhere that you were restructuring the NU program. Any ideas to share? I've mentioned that briefly during here. But yeah, so I have reconstructed about a third of the program right now, to where we have taken it to where I was like, I literally took all the papers out of the curriculum. It's towards the end of the program. And now you're actually submitting, instead of papers, you're doing technical assessments on, you know, Hack the Box, Try Hack Me, or various vulnerable images. And then you're submitting pen test reports, vulnerability reports, or red team reports based on, you know, your assignments for that week. Frank says he wished he could go back now. Frank is one of my mentees that I talked to, and he's also a graduate of that program. Let's see. Is there a point with collecting certifications without any relevance experience? Is it possible to overqualify yourself out of an entry-level job? No. No, stop thinking that. Don't ever think that you're going to overqualify yourself out of a job. This is a field where the more knowledge you have, the more sought after you are. And if anyone ever says otherwise, you know, have them talk to me. Please point them to my direction. Have my contacts up here. So again, everyone, thank you so much for coming by, taking the time out of your Friday to come and visit me and learn a little bit. I hope that you learned. If you didn't, feel free to spam me on social media. And you know, again, if you want to learn about AWS pen testing, I've spent about the last year really formulating a methodology of how to effectively and comprehensively pen test AWS. Please buy the book. Please come to my talk at the end of the month, as well as my workshop next week. And know that, you know, if like I said, with the proceeds from the pen testing book, they're all going towards these guys right here. And then also, I'd like to also note that at the end of the month on Halloween, if you sign up for Grey Hat, I'm in the Meet the Experts panel. So you can actually go sign up there, and you can talk to me one-on-one. We'll have a chat. We can even have a virtual beer or a real beer, and sit there and talk shop.